From far superior storyline conclusions being completely swerved in favor of a pointless surprise, to those moments when overpromising bit certain promotions right on the bottom. These are those popular wrestling theories that just never made the transition from fantasy to reality. Gareth here from What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 hugely popular wrestling theories that were wrong. Number 10. Roman's historic reign will end in Cardiff. The chances of the tribal chief actually not walking out of an arena or stadium still holding his belt over his shoulders have often felt pretty slim recently, but heading into Cardiff's Clash at the Castle PLE last year, something felt a bit different. Vince McMahon had just recently departed the company in disgrace. This was WWE's first big UK stadium show in 3 decades, and a Brit was squaring off against the head of the table on sort of home turf. If Triple H really wanted to shake up the system early into his run as the new head of creative, dethroning the head of the bloodline in the middle of a deafening Principality Stadium would have been one hell of a way to do it. And for a second there, the noise that accompanied each and every piece of potentially match-winning offense unleashed by Drew McIntyre looked to be further reinforcing the idea of this exciting theory actually coming true in Wales. Solo Sikoa obviously had other ideas, but this was pulsating stuff all the same while it lasted, and before all the weird karaoke stuff happened. Number 9. The streak will never end. By the time WrestleMania 30 wandered into New Orleans, The Undertaker had remarkably managed to amass a dominant 21-0 winning streak on the grandest stage of them all. And while there were a decent amount of fans out there who would have been happy to see the Phenom give up his perfect record at the show of shows in order to put over an up-and-coming star of tomorrow, there were also many who simply didn't feel that there was any need to have this iconic run ever ruined by a number in the L column. Either way, heading into the 30th showcase of the Immortals, just about every one of those fans weren't under the impression that Taker would find himself on the losing side during his Mania clash with Brock Lesnar in the Superdome. Apparently though, Vince McMahon reportedly saw this as the dead man's last hurrah and thought that, instead of preserving his legacy as the undefeated icon of WrestleMania, the Beast could benefit from the monumental win over the legend. So after making the official call on the day, those theories of Taker going out with a 22-0 score, or better, were well and truly laid to rest in dramatic fashion. Number 8. Austin's car incident was all part of the game. In the case of the long-running tale of precisely who ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin back at Survivor Series 1999, most fans would have bet their house on the person being responsible being none other than a future head of WWE Creative. Triple H, being WWF champion at the time, definitely sat as one of the stars who would benefit the most from taking out one of his triple threat opponents on the night. But after nearly a year of trying to get to the bottom of precisely who was behind the hit and run, the answer to that all-important question turned out to be Rikishi. Why did he do it? You likely know the infamous answer to that one by now, but the real-life reason for the lovable dancing wrestler targeting the Texas rattlesnake actually came down to little more than Vince McMahon simply loving the idea because absolutely nobody saw it coming. For good bloody reason. Sure enough, after realizing how bad a call it was to attempt to turn the much-loved Rikishi heel, it was later revealed that Trips had actually ordered the big man to take out Austin in a clear effort to steer the story back down the road it should have been on all along. Number 7. Tony Khan's big Revolution surprise underwhelms. Tony Khan has learned the hard way over the course of his short time as the president of a much-loved wrestling company that passionately or even subtly selling an incoming arrival or moment can have disastrous consequences if you cannot deliver the goods. And a few years before AEW eventually disappointed those inside of the Kia Forum with the eventual lack of teased money on January 11, 2023, TK himself decided to go big with his hyping of an incoming major star in the world of wrestling that was set to arrive in the land of All Elite at Revolution 2021. As expected, that kind of billing led to many assuming that a star on the level of a CM Punk, Kurt Angle, or even a Brock Lesnar would be suddenly choosing to sign on the dotted line and become All Elite on the night of March 7th. The fact that Christian Cage ultimately ended up being said surprise signing wasn't exactly entirely underwhelming by any means, with many rubbing their hands at the idea of him making a long-awaited comeback to consistent action. But expectations were set so high after Khan's relentless overhyping that anything less than a best-in-the-world wrestling machine or beast was always destined to slightly disappoint. Number 6. Brock Lesnar drops the title before a UFC return. Around the time WWE were gearing up for the 34th showcase of the Immortals, more rumors of Brock Lesnar returning to the Octagon were very much doing the rounds. At that point, the Beast Incarnate was still very much reigning as the company's Universal Champion, so it seemed logical to assume that his challenger at that year's show of shows would walk out of WrestleMania as the new red strap holder. The fact Lesnar was photographed alongside UFC President Dana White on the road to WrestleMania didn't exactly put an end to the theories regarding Brock doing the job on his way out of the company, and talk of his deal expiring after the mega show also seemed to hint at an inevitable title switch and UFC departure too. But in a move that caught just about everyone off guard, not only did Brock utterly batter Reigns in the main event of Mania 34, he also put pen to paper on a new deal that kept him with the company and also allowed him to continue teasing a return to the cage. That latter part ultimately never came to fruition, of course, yet neither did the seemingly inevitable sight of WWE's new chosen one dethroning the all-conquering beast on the grandest stage. Not at that Mania at least. Number 5, a snake slithering into the role of higher power. It's safe to say that quite a few wrestling fans around the globe were left feeling slightly disappointed about the eventual reveal of who the mysterious higher power giving orders to The Undertaker and his Ministry of Darkness actually was back in 1999. After spending a decent amount of time building towards the eventual arrival of the person pulling the strings in the darkness, and a rather unsettling amount of kidnapping, those hours of dreaming over scenarios involving the likes of Jake the Snake Roberts or Shawn Michaels popping up as the real big bad turned out to be one hell of a waste of time. Roberts in particular seemed like a clear and compelling higher power frontrunner at the time, but in another example of clearly making it up as they went along, the company eventually felt that Vince McMahon himself was the only figure strong enough to dump into that hotly anticipated spot, with the boss ultimately nixing the originally planned Christopher Daniels reveal in the role. The fact it threw a great many plot holes into the mix didn't matter, of course, such as McMahon being the person behind the terrorizing of his own family. Vince was gonna Vince, regardless of the bizarre revelation ultimately ranking as one of the most underwhelming and nonsensical in wrestling history. Number 4, some genuinely huge WCW superstars invade WWE. The concept of WCW's heavy hitters actually arriving on the WWE scene and threatening to completely take over Vince McMahon's organization was the sort of stuff that fans who sat through the Monday Night Wars had been dreaming of for years. And when the then WWF actually managed to purchase their former rival back in 2001, it finally seemed as though that fantasy could become a mouth-watering reality. Instead of bringing in the likes of Goldberg, Sting, Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall though, those big WCW names were all nowhere to be seen thanks to their contract situation at the time. So all those awesome theories of a genuine blockbuster WCW versus WWF showdown soon evaporated as it quickly became clear that the eventual invasion storyline was only going to boast a couple of well-known WCW faces, such as Booker T and Diamond Dallas Page. Perhaps even more frustrating than those aforementioned megastars not rocking up around the time of the infamous invasion was the fact they all eventually would later down the road. Had Vince simply forked out the cash to deliver the icons fans were wishing for at the time, there is a world where wrestling greatness could have been definitely forged, or something a bit more interesting than DDP stalking The Undertaker's wife at least. Number 3, Daniel Bryan is going to the WrestleMania main event again. After incredibly going on to pull off a full-blown miracle on Bourbon Street in the wake of not even appearing in the prior year's 2014 over-the-top rope spectacle, fans were desperately rooting for a returning Daniel Bryan to book his place in the main event of the show of shows once again. Only WWE evidently weren't as eager to strap the rocket to the American Dragon's back as those watching on around the world were this time around. An epic story was right there though, and had been fantasy booked by just about every suffering WWE fan out there. Bryan overcomes his frustrating injury setback that cut short his previous crowd-pleasing reign as WWE World Heavyweight Champion, and once again beats the odds to set up an explosive showdown with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 31. Imagine! All that being said, despite the disappointing alternative not exactly exciting in quite the same way, the resulting Brockbuster with added plucky reigns did still lead to a certain iconic heist of the century. So every cloud and all that, eh? Number 2, Kenny Omega is heading to the Royal Rumble. A year on from a rather phenomenal WWE debut at the always surprising Royal Rumble event, fans were at it again with their ambitious predictions as to who would shockingly walk down the ramp in the 2017 edition of the titular encounter. Following in his fellow Bullet Club stars' footsteps, a Kenny Omega who was reassessing his wrestling future at the time was the name on most folks' lips. And not even the cleaner's own confirmation that he wouldn't be at the then incoming event could keep fans from feeling as though Omega was on the cusp of becoming WWE's latest eye-catching signing. AJ Styles had done something similar a year before, don't forget. Wrestlers lie, it's just what they do. However, after an already pretty star-studded Rumble bout, the buzz surrounding who would make that highly anticipated walk at number 30 soon turned into a sea of deflation at the sight of Roman Reigns being trotted out in the unenviable Omega free spot. Number 1, a broken exalted one. Early into AEW's existence as a weekly television televised source of wrestling joy. Precisely who would be eventually revealed as the Dark Order's own higher power, if you will, by the name of the Exalted One, was a question on many and All Elite supporters' minds. And for a time, all signs appeared to be pointing to the debuting of none other than the broken version of Matt Hardy, in the wake of it being made known that the WWE Stars deal was coming to an end in the first quarter of 2020. The fact AEW even went as far as to tease Hardy's arrival with a rather bizarre but easily crackable poem/code also fueled rumors of this soon-to-be Exalted One's status. However, while Hardy would very much make his debut on the night of March 18th in front of an empty Daily's place, the position of Exalted One was actually revealed to have been taken up by another incoming AEW figure in the form of the late, great Brody Lee. A spooky Hardy may have been the most obvious choice heading into the all-important AEW reveal, but allowing the brilliant Lee to unexpectedly lead this floundering group of Dark Order misfits soon set the stage for some of the intimidating big man's finest work and the salvaging of one of AEW's biggest faction misfires. Brody absolutely smashed it out of the park, and oh boy is he missed. And that's our list. Know of any other hugely popular wrestling theories that were wrong? Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, if you like this kind of thing, then please head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles just like the one this video you're watching right this second is based on. I've been Gareth from whatculture.com. Thank you as always for watching this lovely video today. Hopefully I'll see your faces very, very soon, but in the meantime, just be good to yourself, eh? Bye bye!